What is the truth? And does it even fucking matter? Welcome, my friends, to another episode. And tonight I'm going to be talking about kind of off the cuff discussion about what really matters in this world. As I'm sitting here on a Saturday night, 9:30 p.m., am I out partying somewhere? No, I'm sitting here making a video. How pathetic, right? Well, it's what I like doing. I like isolating. I like learning. I like talking and discovering new things. And for me, truth has always been a major driver of my motivation for making videos and for discussing things with people. But I'm not a truther type, obviously. I'm not out here saying this is the truth and this is what you should believe. But I am a kind of person who values the truth, values what's real. And over my, almost 50 years now, I've heard so much bullshit that, it's like, where do you even start sometimes with trying to gauge what's real and what's not? You know, actually, partially, I was going to mention my brother and I actually had a discussion about this, and it's kind of on the same track we were talking about fact checkers. And he was saying some people believe that, the reason why, recently Facebook abandoned fact checkers and people are making it a big deal as if they're catering to, the far right or MAGA or something. But in reality, what I see it as a sea change in the way that social media and the internet is run in general. Because anyone who's uploaded videos has come across fact checkers. It seems very mundane or non-intrusive when you make a video talking about, say, climate change or 9/11 or COVID, and a giant blue banner runs under your video with more information that you can access about this topic, right? And part of me says, well, this is a good thing, because there's a lot of BS out there. But then, that kind of wild side of me, the wild American, I guess, just says, no, man, you got to figure this shit out for yourself. Like, you can't expect others to give you the full truth. And how do I know the fact checkers are checking legitimately? And, of course, many investigations into these so-called fact checkers have found that they are, often strong donors to various campaigns, that they have, at the very least, they're biased, like we all are. But do they have an agenda? I don't know. But what I have found is a lot of the information that I've been dinged on for talking about with these truth banners have turned out to be not true, or at the very least, maybe it's something that we can't determine the truth about, but that we just need to talk about. And this is where it gets very complicated. This is where I mentioned something like the lab leak theory, which I brought up, and it was considered misinformation. And I was like, okay, so how do you talk about the potential for something like this, or a worldwide disaster where everyone suffers, all the businesses, all the individuals, and that it may have been caused by human error? At the very least, the response was human error. But imagine that we find out that something was caused by a leak in a laboratory. That's something you just haven't heard talked about. It's been years. It's over. Nobody cares anymore. We've moved on because people forget quick. And this is why lies are so valuable. If you can just throw a quick banner up and say, no, this is the truth, nobody's going to look any deeper into it. And this is where people like, well, myself included, start to sound like the wild conspiracy theorists, because that label is so easy to just throw out. Notice I roll my eyes. The conspiracy label used to be an insult, but today it's more of a badge of honor, because as folks find if they've paid attention, I've back in the 90s read a book called Behold a Pale Horse. It talked about a lot of government conspiracies. This was written by William Cooper, or Bill Cooper, who was kind of the his protege was like this Alex Jones, who ended up using a lot of Cooper's work in his early discussions on YouTube. And there was a time when Alex Jones was accessible. I mean, he used to actually respond to comments, and I would comment on his channel. And then he blocked and deleted me like from 2 different accounts, I think, and 2 different channels because I asked a question. And that's when I realized, that was in my early truth-seeking days, where I realized, whoa, a lot of these guys who are pretending to be truth seekers are really scared of anything that might be the truth if it doesn't agree or align with their version of the truth. So this is when I realized that many of these conspiracy theorists, I guess the grifter crowd, are completely full of shit and just saying whatever gets clicks. And this started very early on. The same way that the mainstream media or various social media companies might use certain advertisements or have certain articles because they get clicks, the sensational news. But also, as people started to find out that the various media companies and organizations were funded by, as we say, like the pharmaceutical companies. I mean, how many times did Pfizer or Merck sponsor various news articles about COVID? Think about it for a minute. I mean, is that not a conflict of interest? That the very news, segments that are talking about COVID were sponsored by the companies making a shot for it? I don't know how it gets any more cut and dry and obvious, but what we found was that people don't care. A lot of people migrated away from mainstream media, and they thought that they would find the truth elsewhere in these, quote, alternative news sources. And look, I've fallen for it too. You really believe that somebody has the people's best interest. And some of these guys do. Don't get me wrong. There are a lot of guys who are just open to the truth. Even just like Joe Rogan. Do I think he's menacing at all? No. Do I think he really contributes a whole lot to the discussion? No, not really a lot of the time. In fact, but I consider Joe's naivety, which he's improved over the years, but it's his strength, his ability to interview other people who are interesting and do have a lot to say, and he can contribute his thoughts on it too. But really, it's about the people hearing out the guests. It always was. The guests have gone to shit too. It's just this repeating crap of these same, what you call the intellectual circuit. You've got the Jordan Petersons and the Eric Weinsteins. These guys don't impress me at all. they're not. There's something in their demeanor and in the way they talk and the way they carry themselves that just screams arrogance and a lack of understanding of true spirituality of any form whatsoever. Especially Eric. I mean, Jordan Peterson, he kind of does the whole Bible thing, but he tries to, take it in the archetypal fashion, brings up Orwell in 1984 like he knows what he's talking about. But I'm not here to dismiss or diss these guys. A lot of these guys, to some people, they're considered heroes or intellectual powerhouses. They've got the IDW, the intellectual dark web. But these guys just don't... they don't seem to understand the humility required for true understanding. Because I think that once you have a certain amount of understanding, something that goes beyond proving truth, you realize that every truth is individual. It's independent to the person. You can't prove it to anyone. You can't prove the truth of what really is to anyone else but yourself. Because God, if you want to use that term, is what is. God is everything. God is ever present. There's no way to describe it or put it in some form that you can package it up for other people. The same way, a lot of scientific ideas or principles may look good on paper, but that you can't really package them up into factual, discussable, coherent, discussions, I guess. So what I'm getting at here is that one of my goals in my YouTube channel, in my discussions that I have here in my podcasts, is to bring complicated topics and discussions, in my mind, down to a very cut and dry style, basic layman level discussion. I'm trying to put this in a way that doesn't seem insulting or condescending, because my audience is not dumb. A lot of you are far more intelligent than I am. In fact, some of my subscribers, I've seen some of your work and it's phenomenal. Like, wow, I sometimes wish that I had that type of vernacular and ability to carry myself with that much confidence. But who I am, I'm glad that I'm a little more insecure about certain things, and also that I don't try to put it in very complicated terms. Something I started doing about 10 years ago. Well, more like 7 or 8 years ago now. On my YouTube channel, I mean, there were times when I thought, I want to sound smart, because there were times in my life where I thought knowing more words and being able to use bigger words is good. It's better because people understand you better. But then I realized sometimes if a person even has to pause for 1 second to figure out what a word means, it throws off your whole discussion. So even when I'm reading, say, a post or a synopsis about something, or listening to a video where they start using a lot of complex terms, I know that that's for people who are at that level, but that the average person it either goes right over their head or they just click off of it. This is why highly intelligent people have a hard time communicating with other people. It's because they can't bring it down to the dumb level. Not dumb, but dumb it down to the point. Because I'm on the lower level. I'm not a fucking intelligent, a highly intelligent person. I'm a guy who thinks a lot and has a lot of ideas, but I really want to keep those basic, and I keep myself at a level where I can communicate with my fellow man, because I don't want to be separate. I don't want to be smarter, even if I could. You know what I mean? And I'm sure that I could educate myself to no end with words and ideas and learn all about different formulas and equations, but that's not my thing. Some of the things that are most precious to me are things that I can't explain, express, or prove ever. Things like God, things like truth, things like understanding, love, purpose, Cheers to that, my friends. I guess all I can say here is we're all looking for a truth that works for us. And what it appears to me is that a lot of the folks who are most desperately seeking some sort of truth are often the ones who are most displeased with life. In other words, the cynic is often the truth seeker. I think we all see this, but it doesn't mean that everybody that seeks the truth is miserable by any means. It means that people who are overly unhealthily obsessed with truth about everything are often not very fun to be around. So enlighten yourself, not in the spiritual way, but in the joyful way. Make joy in your life. Have fun. Be a fool. Be an idiot. Be a buffoon sometimes. Don't worry about how you're perceived. And what you might find is the truth comes to you. The most important truth, which is that no matter what you know about spirit, about politics, about earth, whatever topic it may be, the most important topic is relationships, love, understanding, family, connection. And that I'll stand by. And I haven't seen that change my whole life. Sometimes it can get rough, but sometimes it's really good. Much love to you all. Thanks for coming. You can check out the podcast recording on 15-Minute Free Thinking Podcast. Or if you're listening on the podcast, you can check out my YouTube channel, Carpo719. Thank you. Much love to all my patrons who keep the channel going, because that's my only form of income without advertisements or crappy sponsors like BetterHelp that I wouldn't dare ever allow to sponsor my channel. You can support me on Patreon at Carpo719. And I'm going to be uploading a few extra videos there that I have uploaded to my channel. I just haven't made them public because I take them and I'll keep them unlisted and then post a few for my patrons. So if you are a patron and you've never been to my Patreon, if you just donate, go check out my Patreon and you'll have access to it, and you can watch these videos as well. But for what it's worth, I don't know if what I have to say really matters much. I'm just a guy talking on the internet. So for all of you who do care, much love to you and much respect. I'll talk to you next time. Be well, take care of each other, and remember that the only truth that really matters is the truth that helps you live a better life. Peace.